Go ahead.
Cool. Hey guys, how's it going? Um, Thanks for joining us for another week of our software cooperative meetup. Today we're going to have a continuation of a talk that was pretty good. It was back in December over co-opensation and how to handle co-opensation, how to handle fair co-opensation in a working-owned incentive system. And so Watson's gonna lead us today. We've got a paper as usual. Um, I've read about three-fourths of it so far, and I think it's pretty great. So, without any further ado, Watson, take it away.
Thanks. All right. Let's go ahead and start with talking about a little bit of an overview about this paper, where it comes from, and we've been working on this for maybe two years now. Where it comes from is trying or struggling with fairness and fairness compensation systems for service-based companies. We will be creating another form of this algorithm that handles product-based and service-based companies, but this compensation system is specifically just for service-based. So what we have here is a paper split into about a system, and it's split into value creation, work types, and overhead. And then we're going to break each one of those down into three as we move forward. A general overview about fairness, if you didn't see the last talk, it's available. And it's called On Fairness, and it reviews the problem of fair division, which is a problem that's studied within game theory and decision theory. It's also one that attorneys are preoccupied with when they are doing the separation of, like, during a divorce, or when someone dies and they're divvying up someone's property and trying to do it in such a fair way so that everyone's happy. So they are also concerned with this problem. So if you are concerned with fairness, the term or the phrase that you want to look up is fair division. So fairness is, pursuing fairness is expensive. At a high level, for any consultancy, what you can do just right off the bat, you can set up your system so that it's a keep what you kill system. So individual works, they eat, and that's it. Okay, so that is at the baseline very fair. The problem with that is there's no incentive for people to do things that are long-term goals, like marketing or maybe management, mentoring, and those types of things. So what attorneys and large law firms have figured out is there's ways that you can create a compensation system where you have credits or points, and you distribute those among the people who are high performers, low performers, or what have you. And they normally, if you're not familiar with law firms, they normally have a 2 or 3 tier system where there are partners and there are associates, and there might be senior partners, but they normally keep it right around 2 tiers. So most law firms actually do some kind of, I guess you could call it like a gray hair method, where the wise senior partners at the end of the year distribute out some type of bonus to the people that they think are worthy. And people tend to think that that's okay. Sometimes they don't, and they'll run into trouble when, some type of a high performer may just leave if they get a $1 million contract and they don't feel like, or case, and they don't feel like sharing that with the law firm. That's the price that you pay when you kind of do things in a way that's not really objective, because they might leave. So the point systems are the ones that really try to struggle with fairness and try to make it to where everyone's aware that what they're given is fair. So within within a firm, any consultancy, so law firms, software consultancies, accounting consultancies, whatever, you've got three things that create value. You've got partners, you've got associates, and then you've got really the firm itself, which is probably, you can think of that as the brand of the firm. So what we're going to do within this paper, we're going to talk about how you can measure the value of a partner, the market value. Now that seems like something that might be impossible to do. How can you figure out what someone's market value is? But there are ways that people try to do this. Now the calculation that we're going to use here, it does well with incentivizing behaviors that concentrate on brand building and management. It does not care about seniority that much, and that's on purpose, because oftentimes someone will maybe work hard for 5 years and then they hang around for another 15 to 30 years and they don't do much. So seniority, it kind of can cause a problem in that case. So this really doesn't put a lot of weight on seniority. It really doesn't put any weight on. So it's really biased towards work performed, and the work performed is also part of your individual brand. If a customer likes you and you've put a lot of work into that, that's something that it kind of acts as seniority. So it accounts for that. And we'll talk about that. When this calculation or this algorithm, I'm going to say it again, is actually pretty involved. That's the con for trying to get as much fairness as possible. And I have a whole addendum with the calculations in it. I also have an Excel spreadsheet if anybody's interested, and I can walk you through it so you can see the calculations. All right, so if you're not familiar with how law firms or consultancies work, the partners are the legal owners of the firm. So they have influence, and that's established by law, right? So they actually direct and vote where the firm goes. And it's really aligns very well with a cooperative and worker-owned cooperatives. You are really a partner / member when you are in a worker-owned business. And so the first thing we need to talk about is partner responsible hours. Really what that means at a high level, it's what you do to get work, okay? The work that you are responsible for bringing in. Now that goes for account management and acquiring. So you kind of look at it as your brand, all that stuff like that. When you bring in $1 million project, even if you don't work on it, and we're going to talk about that, there's some value. There's a lot of value that you brought to the table, and you will be compensated for that. That needs to be incentivized. It's a big problem with systems that don't incentivize that type of thing. So origination for partner responsible hours, half of it comes from the account management, right? And acquiring a project, right? The other half is origination. So you can think of origination as some type of percentage that, someone can get. So oftentimes sales guys get 20% of whatever they bring in. You can think of the origination as that, like a percentage, if you like, right? And then working hours, you're already familiar with that. If a customer is going to pay you $150 an hour to do something, that's billable hours. That's your working hours. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now, associates. What are associates? It's a non-partner, right? So they could be a W-2. They might not be a W-2. Could be a contractor, right? So for cooperatives, really what you want to do is everybody that's a worker is an owner. And then people or everyone that's part of the entity is some kind of owner. They have a vote, right? People that are outside the entity, you want to bring them in as close as possible, and then get them understanding what it is to be part of a cooperative and all that. But they are associates, right? And associates are kind of more ephemeral nature, so they can appear and disappear. They might have a really good specialty. They might know within software, they might know a specific kind of software that you need for 3 months, and they can come on board or disappear afterwards. And that's kind of the nature, right? They're more focused on short-term goals, or they have their own agenda, and they come and work with you, and then they might disappear later. So that's kind of what an associate is. Now, margin on associates, that's the profit made during the use of an associate. And that needs to be incentivized. So another term for this is leverage. When people are good at leveraging or using another person, mentoring them, directing them in such a way to where there are efficiencies, they need to be compensated for that. Otherwise, you have a whole lot of people who do not play nicely with others. You're incentivizing lone wolves, right? Margin on associates, it's a way to incentivize people that are efficient, and they're using other people to get the job done. Now, firm hours, this comes up a lot when it comes to talking about how it is that you incentivize marketing or a management. Firm hours are approved hours. We're going to talk about another kind of non-billable that is non-approved hours. But firm hours are approved. You get together and you vote and you say, guess what? We're going to spend $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever a month on marketing. Now you guys approve that. At that point, then someone can bill against that, and it goes under this category, right? And this is a category that you all have decided that you have to do. You need to do some marketing. You need to send out SOWs, MSAs, these types of things. And it's approved. Someone can bill against it. It may not be $150 an hour. It might be $50 an hour, but people can bill against it. And it's important for when you are calculating opportunity costs. And that's really where the power of this system comes in. We're going to talk about that next. So there's different types of work. You've got billable, non-billable, and what I'm calling mitigation. Firm-wide realization is the value of the firm, the value that the firm has realized from marketing and management functions. And it takes into account billable hours as well as the opportunity costs realized because of the partner work hours lost or gained during the execution of the aggregate firm hours. That's a way of saying, of mixing in how you compensate someone for, let's say you have a high performer, right? And they're $500 an hour. And another person comes in and allows that high performer to maximize his hours, $500. By doing some of these approved firm hours, so some type of marketing function, some type of sending out paperwork, documents, or whatever. So if someone allows a $500 an hour high performer to bill at $500 an hour, they should be compensated. They're kind of a fill in the gaps type of person. And they're trying to, they really act as glue, and they make things work. Those people need to be compensated for that. And their value comes from allowing the high performers to do their thing, right? So non-billable, aggregate firm hours is the total sum of firm-approved marketing and management hours that represent the total amount of approved non-billable work done by partners. This is kind of an intricate detail, and I have the actual calculation here and in the addendum, and you can kind of plug this in. So this is a high level description of what an aggregate. It's just combining all the firm hours together, right? And then you've got opportunity costs. This is how it is that, and you can call them a low performer, or you can call them just a regular performer. How they help high performers is a way to look at this. So when the firm agrees that certain types of work must be done, it approves of that work under the name firm hours. When one partner does 1 hour of firm hour work, the partner enables another partner to do one partner work hour or a billable hour, right? The partners with a higher billable rate have a higher opportunity cost than others when they do the firm hours. And so this mitigated opportunity cost is used to calculate the value of any partner doing approved firm work in order to compensate them accordingly. And this is really a big part of the power of the incentive system within this calculation. It tries really hard to make things fair. Now you've got overhead. That's any non-billable and non-approved, so that's not firm hours, right? Expense. Partners and associates can have overhead. Let's just say fresh books or QuickBooks cost or something like that. That's what your overhead's going to be, right? The overhead for associates is a little bit different. You have to keep your eye on it because associates are ephemeral. Like I said, they do a lot of short-term work. They may appear, disappear. You need to watch their startup and shut down costs, and that's so it's calculated in a different bucket. And the overhead for the partners, those are going to be startup costs, and then those costs aren't going to occur all the time. They're not going to have a lot of short shutdown costs. It's because they're going to be around for much longer. So in summary, when deciding if a procedure for allocating payouts is fair, it's useful to consider its proportionality, efficiency, envy-freeness, equitability, and manipulability in an objective manner. Those are all things that we talked about in our On Fairness paper. So you can go back and look at that video and look at that paper to get more information, but that's the way to talk about fairness in a sophisticated manner. In this paper, we talk about Altman-Wells algorithm, which is a accountant and law firm algorithm together, where they try to make things fair, like in such a way to where they take care of all these things that we're talking about in this paper. And this algorithm considers efficiency, so all money is distributed. So another way to think of efficiency is if you can think of a pie, right? And if you got three people, if you got 3 people and you cut the pie into 4 slices, and you give the 3 people 1 slice, if there's, you have 1 slice left, if you just decide to not give that slice to anyone, that's inefficient, okay? So nothing's left on the table when you have an efficient process, right? Equitability, so opportunity costs for talent, quality of work, risk, and all that are weighted based on contribution. And manipulability, so even if the process and the compensation is transparent, the participants don't gain an advantage in compensation. You can't game the system easily or at all. And there are ways to make systems that have guarantees to make sure that you can't do that. So this algorithm, along with others like it, are a fair way to provide compensation in service-based companies. Now, we have all these calculations here that you can go through and look at. I also have a Excel spreadsheet with all of this, so you can actually look at the numbers. This calculation is basically what one partner would do, or how well they would do for 1 quarter, right? So Johnny partner 1, they end up getting, $22,000 in a quarter, okay? So based off of this calculation, you've got everything in here for associate hours that they're in charge of, the total amount of people in the company, how much that they contributed for that quarter, right? So partner 2 didn't do anything, partner 3 did something, and their billable hours, firm time hours, administrative hours, so that's the overhead, and so on and so forth, and then their rates, and then it comes and calculates it. So this is a system that you can use. You can reason about these calculations, and then you can use this system. You can also try to tweak it and make it your own if you think some things are not as fair or to your liking. So that's what I have for you today. You guys have any questions?
How far is this from what Volk does today?
Yeah, it's pretty far. This is what we're we're moving towards. We've been talking about this thing for 2 years, and we're going to try to implement it pretty soon.
What are the complications that come along with implementing this that you foresee?
What was it? The compensations that come along with it?
Complications. Like how difficult is this going to be to implement, to measure these things?
Yeah, so one complication is everybody putting their hours in for everything. Right now, we put in just billable, and we kind of try to be disciplined about non-billable, but there's a lot of work that people are doing and they don't put it in because it's just like they're not getting compensated for it really. This thing would incentivize us to do that, but it's going to be a cost, right? The other side is right now it's a Excel spreadsheet. It would be nice to have it in a system that people can use and have it go right into FreshBooks or something like that, so that the accountants can take care of it and do your taxes and all that. You can get a good financial statement so you can look at where you are at each quarter and everything.
It just seems like anytime that you try and have like some by-hand measurement and constant calculation, it seems like it's a significant amount of overhead that takes a lot of discipline to keep up with. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely the case. The more fair that you're going to try to be, the more you're going to have to measure. And that's a passion of mine. I really want to make it to where it doesn't cost as much to be fair. So that comes with educating people and then also making systems that make it dirt simple to be fair within small groups. Does anybody else have any questions?
I've got one here. I'm seeing at first, I'm like, this, what's this guy's name? Altman Well. And you're saying like, is this one of those algorithms that is like, perceived to be unhackable?
It's less manipulable, I guess that's how you can say it. It's less prone to being manipulated than the other ones that I've seen. So obviously, like the gray hair, the wise people at the end of the year, that's easily hackable, right? That's just sucking up to the boss, right? This one, it's kind of, notice I didn't say that it was envy free. If somebody is a rainmaker, you're going to envy them with this system or any system that compensates people for bringing in work. They're going to make a lot of money. But that's how sales traditionally works. So.
Right. Yeah. I like this. The only thing is like I really like that. We've got these equations and some real numbers to play with here. I'm just like looking forward to rather like trying to play with this firm-wide realization. Whereas the marketing and management functions, essentially we take into the opportunity cost of let's say a more senior partner doing marketing than a junior associate or partner. It's like just looking forward to trying to capture that value and actually what that looks like. Let's say this senior guy bills $250 an hour. Well, we're not going to say the marketing was $250 an hour, even though that's the actual opportunity cost. And so do you have any ideas or like examples on like how that opportunity cost could be realized there? Because it wouldn't be a one-to-one, am I right?
No, it's not a one-to-one at all. You guys,
Right.
decide what the cost is going to be, but it's all part of the algorithm. So I mean, if you look at it, how it works.
Yeah. It looks pretty detailed. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dive into it. That's cool.
Yeah. Another. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but yeah, in the scheme, do you end up paying that person according to the missed opportunity cost or according to the value actually generated?
Really, the way that it works is if you have, let's say, somebody's taking out the trash, right? And it has to be done. Well, if you have somebody that bills 500 an hour taking out the trash, that's crazy, right? But at the end of the year, you have hours billed or hours accounted for in your system. And you can say something like, hey, we don't have any business taking out trash. We don't even want junior partners or anything like that taking out the trash. We're going to outsource that. And that's somebody outside the company. You can get, some company to come in and take your trash out and do whatever it is, clean your kitchen or whatever. And you do not have to incentive to outsource and to be efficient that way. If you don't do that, then you are going to have people, they will go in and say, well, I'm going to take out the trash today, and they're going to get paid a whole lot of money more. They're not going to get paid $500 an hour, but it's going to be weighted against the fact that if you guys decided that that was a firm hour, right? Something that you agreed to that has to be done. You just hey, they're going to be compensated for it. You could just say taking out the trash is not something that you vote on that, right? But firm hours are things that you all have agreed on that have to be done, right? So at that point, the $500 an hour person, they're like, okay, you want me to send out, a whole bunch of documents for an hour? All right, that's expensive.
So I'm not sure if I missed it because it dropped or if I just missed it again. But what is this? It purports to actually pay the person at their value, not at the value generated, right?
I don't know if I heard you properly.
$500 an hour person takes out the trash. Do you pay them according to the value to the firm of having the trash taken out, or do you pay them $500 an hour rate? Which does this one?
It's neither, right? It's an opportunity cost. So if there's a $500 an hour person, a $200 an hour person, a $50 an hour person, and you're saying that the trash, you all voted and said, yep, trash has to be taken out, right? So we're going to bill, that's a firm hour. It's approved for firm hour. It's not overhead cost, it's a firm hour. Well, when you all voted that, it's not the $50 hour guys. If let's say that guy goes out and takes the trash out, it's not going to be $50 an hour. It's probably going to be, higher than that. It's going to be something in between the $50 an hour and the $500 an hour position.
Okay, so there's a certain rate for firm hours that you all agree to pay, and everybody gets paid that firm hour rate. Is that how it works?
No, it's a calculation based off of it. It does end up being a firm hour rate. Let me go in here and scroll down to it. In this example, let's see. No.
Yeah, it says opportunity cost realized by the firm as opposed to realized by the individual, which is interesting.
Okay. Let me do this. Yeah. This calculation right here. Let's see. So margin on associates. It's going to be a percentage like this calculated. So it's a complicated thing, but it's a percentage. here.
Okay, so it attempts to figure out how much it's worth to the firm,
Right.
and then pay that person the amount of value that the firm has gained.
Mhm.
Interesting.
So
That does seem difficult to calculate, especially for something like taking out the trash as opposed to marketing.
Now remember, you wouldn't, if you all got together and said you have to take the trash out, then that was it. You know, that's a firm hour. If it's some type of overhead cost or you decided not to compensate for that, then it's not a firm hour. You can just let the trash just build up, you know, and nobody has incentive to take it out. These are things that you all voted for, say, or incentive.
so is that percentage multiplied by their normal rate? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going to be their normal rate, but it's going to be the firm-wide rate.
Right.
So,
So it seems like it would be nice to have an automatic system where you have some kind of, task suggestion system or something that would offer it to the lower value people first or something. So you don't, it seems like it would get a little annoying eventually where everybody's saying, okay, now who should we get to do this? Should we go nudge this other guy so it'll be cheaper, or should we, I just wonder how much cognitive annoyance that would add.
it would be funny if, like, the person that is a high performer would say, I don't want to bill $500 an hour. I want to go ahead and take the trash out. It would be weird. You know, the high.
Well, maybe maybe they're having a down week or something.
Yeah, that's another thing is capacity. So if nobody is working, then what's going on there? You know.
With me, it's almost like I could see, like, I mean, when you bring up the example, just solving the problem first and then deciding the cost, it seems that's a much simpler problem to solve for me. So it's like, okay, we can pay this third party $100 a month to take out our trash every week, or we can, for marketing, right? We'll say we'll do these tasks per year that add up to like $10,000 for marketing or whatever. And so then it's like, we can go back and do the math, like, and say, okay, we're just going to pay someone, if we're talking about trash, $25 a week to do trash. And that's cool. I mean, it just makes sense. Who wants to do it? Or, let's pay that price. But then when it comes to the part that gets me is that, is the reason why it's like I almost wanted to say, well, this partner, since I'm letting him make $500 an hour, with me taking out this trash, should I get some percentage of that $500? Or are we saying that since we're letting him make this $500, we agree to put firm money toward this task? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's the latter, right?
Okay, yeah, that's what yeah. See, that's what got me at first, because at first maybe it's how it was written, because maybe it's just opportunity cost and how I was thinking, but we're talking from the firm's perspective here, and so that more money can be generated, we're agreeing that the firm's money is this. That has, more or less nothing to do with this guy making his $500 an hour. He's still gonna give his same percentage to the firm, but this is more so a thing of how the firm's money will be spent, not how. Okay, yeah. All right, cool, yeah. I understand it, yeah. And that's just I would just go about it that way then. Solve the problem, come up with the dollar amount, and then just divide from there. Yeah.
So the easy way to understand stuff is go in the Excel spreadsheet and play with the numbers. Just keep changing them until you see how it works, and try to hack it. Say, well, okay, put in a high performer, put a low performer in there, and try to make it to where, hey, if I just went ahead and didn't do any billable work, And I said, oh, I'm just going to go ahead. And in reality, it's not going to be taking the trash out. This stuff is the non-billable things, the firm hours, those things are really the glue. So there's a lot of administrative work that has to be done, and it's valuable work. A lot of with SOW work, scheduling things, management things, account management. There's a lot of things like that that people don't want to do, and might not be the customer might not want to pay for it. But and then the high performers are gonna just say, well, I'm just gonna try to do my billable work only, and then they drop the ball and they end up having to do this other work. So it's you can't get away from it, but it's mostly for those people that fill in. They're kind of filling the gaps. People, they're free safeties or what have you.
Yeah. So I have two things in mind. I guess the first one is you did mention capacity, and that seems like a pretty big deal because opportunity cost is really kind of theoretical. Like the famous example of it's not worth it to shop around for your gas because you're only saving pennies and you're making, such a low theoretical rate. But, it's not like if I wasn't going to get any more money for the time that I saved, then it's worth it for me to save a little bit if the only thing, then it's only about how much that free time was worth to me. I guess, and then trying to value the free time itself, if anything. But, I don't know. Opportunity cost kind of seems to just assume 100% efficiency with whatever hours are there. Does that make sense?
I don't know about assuming 100% efficiency. Yeah, it does some type of assumption, right? So it's really made to handle making so the high performers don't have to do this other work, but they don't turn around and say to the people who are allowing them to do the high performing, high billable hour, they can't turn around and tell them, you only get paid $10 an hour for that. You don't like it, leave. Right? Because that creates turnover. Right? So the cohesiveness isn't there. Really what you need to be doing is at the end of the year saying, we spent a whole bunch of time on X, take the trash out, whatever. We need to not make that a firm hour. We need to hire somebody or outsource it. So it's kind of like a built-in, you can look at it as almost like a built-in punishment for yourself. You need to be, if you're going to try to be efficient, specialize, right? That way. But if not, they're part of your team and they're allowing you to do things they should be compensated for.
So, it kind of seems like potentially, given that these hours may not be totally stable, right? This $500 an hour person may have 40 hours a week, or like there may be one week where they'll have 10 hours. And in that case, then somebody who enabled that person to work only enabled them to make $5,000 a week instead of, $20,000. So do we dynamically calculate the value that was provided by the person taking out the trash?
Based off the quarter. So if you look at the screen here, right, you got associates or whatever, right? It's not based off of, you have their hourly rate, but if somebody wants to be silly and work $500, they're $500 an hour, but they only work for 4 hours that quarter, then, it's going to compensate for that. So this is quarterly.
All right.
Right? It's the total amount of money they make.
Okay.
Right?
So
Yeah.
one other thing I thought about was you brought up envy free, and it's only briefly been touched on a little bit. It was kind of an interesting thing that didn't occur to me at first as something to value. Like it seems like, yeah, okay, person's worth more, they worked more, they made more, no problem. But what do you think of trying to include envy freeness as a characteristic in a system, what its value is, and what the whether any real world consequences are going to come into play from kind of not acknowledging that as the system does, you know? Does that matter? Do people who care about that deserve to not, you know, be serviced in their desires? I mean, what do you do with that?
That envy free it's a weird concept to try to, if you look at the old paper, and then also if you read the fair division book or the other books that are about fair division, envy freeness, it's interesting. Like a thing with envy, let's say cake cutting is envy free. If you do a procedure where you say, okay, you take one kid and you can cut the cake in half, and then the other one chooses which half, right? As long as the cake is completely like divisible, there isn't any like a piece of gold on one part of the cake or something like that, right? It's just completely vanilla cake and all that, and they both like vanilla cake, right? That's when it's like considered envy free, because if you cut it in such a way to where you were being irrational, then that's your own fault, right? So you should cut it in completely in half so that the other person can take just half, and not, if you cut it, you know, on one third and 2/3, and they take 2/3, you can say, oh, I'm envious of your 2/3, but no, that's because you didn't slice it properly. So the envy free is kind of it's an interesting concept, but it's hard to put it into equitability. And so oftentimes when you get envy free and equitability, you can manipulate. So if somebody knows how much you make, then automatically they can start gaming. The systems that happen right now, like within regular the regular workforce, nobody knows how much somebody can make.
Just if I could interject, is it right to assume that to be envy free, you either have to be secretive or you have to be unequitable, and those are kind of the only two options there?
I don't think so, but it's just difficult to have a system that has all of these things. Usually, you sacrifice one of them. So,
Well, you say usually. Is there any case that's an exception to that? I mean, it seems like it should be impossible. Like you can't have open, equitable, and envy free.
and non-manipulable is the other one, right? There's a bunch of systems for fairness. So,
I guess I'm kind of assuming that if it's equitable, like if you're manipulating it, then you're breaking the equitableness of it. So I'm kind of lumping it together in my mind.
yeah, all these things are separate. But if you make it to where the payouts are secret, then that's envy free. But you know, the reason why is because it's easy to manipulate or whatever. But if you're interested more about that, then you should definitely look at the fair division book. There's lots of systems of fair division, and they get way more complicated than what I'm putting in here.
We touched on something a while back. Essentially, my thing is, so to help with, and it's, like you said, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it'd be pretty hard, you know, to have all three of these in a company. The thing I'd say that's definitely easier said than done, it just comes down to the culture. But for me, like personally, the envy freeness, yeah, I think, is that how we saying that? Yeah, envy freeness. That's solved with a clear route to I don't know what's the word. It's not promotion, but to increase your value. You know, I mean, once that's there, like once the route is there to do it, and it's like actually true, you know, it's not just like, you know, just some like thing to say, then I think that kind of like, for me at least, that eliminates envy freeness. You know, it's like, I mean, there's still a little play in there, but I think it definitely helps a lot. Uh, you know, what's it to be envious about? You know, you have the roadmap. You know, put in the work. If you're willing to work. You know.
I was gonna say, if you feel any envy in an equitable system, it seems like it's kind of like not the system's fault; it's the person's fault. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. But you know, that has to be a clear. It has to be a clear route, though. This is assuming that the person's, you know, willing to work, you know, and if they trust the culture. Um, then it's like it's no one's fault but yours. And so that solves it for me. But
Well, it seems like understanding the system is important for that too, because I mean, mathematically it can all be, this should be NV free, but if you didn't quite catch that if you did this, then you'd get compensated thusly. And you see the pay of everybody, and you say, well, crap, I didn't realize that if I rearranged the variables this way, then it would work out better. It seems like having an understandable system is a requirement too for NV freeness.
Yeah, you get a little surprised at the end of the year. Like, wait a minute. Yeah.
So I guess I feel like there is like a little bit of theoretical ambiguity here in one other place that I could think of. So if you have like a large software project, I guess how do you break that down in the system? Do you say like it's worth X number of billable hours, and you directly correlate certain hours to certain parts of the work, and you try and like line up this very concrete value to work amount, and then people just target that, and so then they're like how much dollar amount they get, because you're not like really charging, you're not setting individuals with a rate to an external source, and like you can borrow our developer for X number an hour. It's really like you get a job and it needs to get done and it's worth this much total, and so it's a division of labor. So then it's like, how do you decide who gets what amount according to what work is done?
So I didn't get the very first part, but if you're saying consultancies do billable rates all the time. Like somebody's worth a certain amount, it's what the customer will pay for you. So the customer is what sets that rate.
It's another thing too is like in your example, it's more like a you know, the partners decide the cost. You know, the cost doesn't come and then you break down. Ideally, right? I mean, I guess there's some like an idea of a fixed bid. Then, like your example would come, and so like how that would be handled essentially is like each partner, in my opinion, not everyone on the project would estimate out the features that need to be done, and the who gets what is who gets paid what is according to those estimates. It works out way easier if you decide the cost and then present it to the client, right? But in the instance of a fixed bid, the money comes first and then it's broken down through estimates and just like negotiations amongst the team. Can it be done? I think that's how it would be. I mean, just makes sense, especially if the number comes first, if the cost comes first, then I mean you've got to just see how you're gonna make it work.
All right, we're kind of approaching the hour mark. Anybody have anything else?
I don't. I want to, like I said, man, I want to look at these little calculations in the spreadsheet. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna play with it later. Let's see if I can break it.
It'd be neat if there was a way to visualize this stuff. Because I mean, spreadsheets are cool, but as a visual person, I think having a way to turn the knobs and stuff and see what happens would be cool. I'm not volunteering to do this, by the way, but is there anything out there like that anybody knows of?
Not only do I not see anything out there, these books that are about for these compensation plans, they're very, very expensive. So, and they don't have a system for you to just download and use. So that's it's a good idea for the system. Anybody else?
That's it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed this week, man. Good stuff.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you next. Oh well, I guess wait before we go. Do you have any idea what we may talk about next time, or
Try to get a guest, I think.
one more time?
We'll try to get a guest. We've met a bunch of people at South by. We'll try to get some of them.
Yeah, we did meet a few people from from all around the world.
Yeah.
So
There's
okay,
some
that would be cool.
cooperatives in Toronto I want to get. Samantha is one. So Travis too. All right.
Okay. Cool. Well, I guess we'll see you guys in May, and yeah, let's see who this guest will be. Mystery guest.
Take it easy.
Cool.